right.
That's got some nice shimmer.
Yeah. I cleaned it all up today. It was a mess.
Wow.
Fingerboard and everything, and
Dirty.
but this guitar, and I'm going live right now online, but I had the guy that put the strings on it tied the strings in knots up here. So when I run into that, I feel like it's a good opportunity to show people how to. There's more than one way to string up an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar. It doesn't matter. But if you got machine heads like this, there's one great way to do it. So I'm just going to start at the beginning, and we'll start down at this end. And I've got a set of 11 to 52 strings, and I just put all the strings in this end first. I know you've seen this video 1,000 times, but we'll cover it again since again, some people don't get the idea that tying a knot in your string up at the machine head is a terrible, terrible idea. And we'll cover why in just a minute, because some people actually still play live music, and some people,
I've heard of such thing.
you heard such a thing. It still happens, and some people don't, and that's fine if you don't. But if you do, and you tie a knot in the machine head on your acoustic or an electric guitar, you have just asked to break a string, number one. And number two, for it to take you 10 minutes to change one string instead of a minute and a half.
Exactly. Minute.
You could have a string off of your guitar and a new set of a new string on there and playing again, no time flat. So I just do that, right? It's really, really simple. Put the strings in there. Okay, let's get up here to the business end of things, which I've covered this a multitude of times, but and other channels have done it, and there are many different ways that people put strings on their acoustic or electric guitars. This guitar, just so for the record, it's a Taylor. And before I do this, I've got one other thing that I've got to do on this that I almost forgot until just this moment. Came in because it needed neck shims. It's a bolt-on neck, and I'll show you inside this instrument. I think, let me see if I can get my camera close enough for you to see that. You can see that bolt down in there. I gotta wait to see if I'm showing you proper here. Give me a second. And Falco, thanks for watching, man. It's great that somebody is interested in maybe learning something about a guitar instead of just watching people who don't know anything about it. There's the bolt down in there, and you can see the sticker that used to cover the holes in there. You can see that bolt. Anyhow, Taylor is kind enough to give me decals to cover that up. So I've got to do that before put strings on that. And here you go. I've got Taylor decals to cover up the bolt holes in there, so it looks like nothing's been done to the guitar. And I have found a very good way to do this. That is, you point it over here. Try and be careful about Sheryl Crow. She'll sue me. No, she won't sue me. She's still playing. It's been 4 years, I think now. 3 years at least. So we got... I know you can't see what I'm doing here, but I found it best to turn the guitar on its side and then stick the decal to my thumb, like so. And then I can kind of see what I'm doing. And I usually do this before I put strings on the instrument, but I got a little ahead of myself because I was just gonna. So now I can see how to line up bottom of that decal right on the bottom of that neck block and let it fold into place. And now nobody can tell anything was done on this. Now this is a 214, so it's got a little bit, I think the sides of this guitar are actually a little bit narrower than, say, on a 414. I think they're slightly taller at the Taylor factory. So the top edge of that sticker is kind of folded at the very top on that neck block. But now, when we look down in here, you see that instead of a blank block with bolts sticking out of it, right? So it looks nice, like nothing happened. No one will know that the neck, that's a shim's been put in this neck, just like the day it was made. All right, let's get back to the point of this broadcast, and that is put your strings on in a proper way so that if you break a string at a gig, you have a new string on there in moments. Here's my method on the low E string. 2 wraps, poke it through the hole over the top of your windings, pull it tight, use your string winder and put tension on the string out here in the middle of the fingerboard, right, and cinch it up. There we go. You can do this in moments. It's so quick. That way, if you break a string, you just unwind it and pull it out. And doing 2 times, like if you do this, right, and then you do this again, you can't do it with a A string, and there's a reason for that, because it's absolutely unnecessary. I'll show you on the higher register string.
How much for this gentleman, you figure?
Nylon strings, usually $30 on a nylon string guitar. These things take a little while. So again, 2 wraps on the, these are the wound strings.
30?
We do two wraps. Well, the strings cost how much?
No, they're my strings. They're my strings.
Oh, you brought them in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How long did it take you? What was your time into it?
20 minutes?
20 minutes.
20, 30.
Yeah, let's see. $15. Does that sound better? I didn't realize they were your strings. Right on. All right. Again, another wound string, and on these ones, 2 wraps.
That's the one you'd go with?
It's simple, reliable,
Through the hole once.
and
Over the top of your windings. Pull the string tight. Cinch it up. Now I'm doing this on my workbench, so this is really easy. You can do this at your kitchen counter.
All wireless.
Have a good one.
Now, I'm not even close to it, too. Now on the unwound strings, and this is where people do this all the time. Number one, they don't do this first. What they do is they poke the string through the hole first, right? So now you've got the string poked through there, and you just pull up till you guess how much string you should leave, and then you got to wind this button a bunch of times to get the string taut or tuned up. Well, why would you do that? You just do this first. 1, 2, 3 wraps, Poke the string through the hole, over the top of your windings. Pull it tight. Hey, have a good day, Kent. Thank you, dude. We'll see you next time. And usually, you know, if you're at a gig, you probably don't have one of those with you, but I just saved myself a whole lot of turning this machine head, right? And if the string breaks, I can pull it out of there so easily. And that's really what it's all about. Right? The same thing on the treble E string. I know I've done this 1,000 times. You all have seen me do this. But it's just annoying to have to take strings off, because this is what people do. 1, 2, this is what I do. I do 3 wraps and poke the string through the hole. But guys do this, or guys, gals, whoever, do this with it. They poke it back through the hole. Okay, number one, it's absolutely and utterly useless to do that. It absolutely does nothing to help the string stay in tune. The only thing it does is makes changing strings more difficult. And especially if you're a gigging musician. And I don't think most gigging musicians would do something like this. This is kind of a, I would say, definitely an amateur move to make that move. There you go. That's how you do it. And now you got the strings on here. And I'm going to go through this whole process. And I'm not saying my way is the only way, because that's not true. But how long did it take me to put a set of strings on this acoustic guitar? Even explaining some stuff and double doing stuff twice just to kind of show right and wrong ways to do it. Now what I'm doing is stretching the strings. This is how you properly stretch strings. So you could put a set of strings on right before your gig, and nice tug. I'm pulling away from the machine head to hopefully snug that thing up and get that friction to do its job, and then pinching the string all the way up and down. Oh boy, we would have found that. Ooh. All right. Let's make sure that you get. You can't leave home without leaving something there, right? For the guitar shop. Right. Welcome home. Can't have a great day, brother. Again, I'm stretching this string just by pinching it between my thumbs. Alright. Again, as the strings get lighter, you want to be a little more gentle. I just keep doing it till it pretty much stays in tune after I'm done making a run down it. And I'm not nice about this, although I'm not worried about breaking a string, because I have a multitude of them here at my store, but it happens very seldom that I do break a string. Just give it a good tug here. So this morning, this guitar did not have a neck on it. I took the neck off of the guitar to shim the neck, which is a big reason why I feel that Taylor is making one of the best built acoustic guitars in the world today. For that reason alone, I took the neck off of the guitar, put shims in the neck that were provided to me by Taylor, and they gave me tools to help with the job. If you buy the set of neck shims, you get a set of tools that are really helpful in taking the neck off of the guitar, putting it back on. In particular, the little hex key that's underneath the fingerboard up here at the body of the guitar. And when you put it back together again, I use a little socket to tighten it up. Makes it very, very simple to do. And so now I've gotten strings on the guitar. They're in tune, although the guitar is laying on its back right now. So the moment I pick this thing up, the tuning is gonna probably get a little wacky. So we'll put this up here. But you can see, I mean, I'm talking. And visiting with a client who was here for a string change on a nylon string guitar. Beautiful Alvarez nylon string guitar. You should have seen that thing. All right, so got strings on her, and I'm just gonna check. So now we got strings, all of the strings on the guitar. We're gonna check the neck relief now. So we'll just make sure that the thing is hitting on all 8. And it looks like the neck relief is a little bit too much, and it definitely is too much. So we're gonna adjust the truss rod, which means I'm gonna tighten it. And you want to use the proper size wrench when you tighten the truss rod, right? So we've gone over changing strings. You want to use the exact right wrench. Now, all Taylors are shipped with a wrench for their truss rod nut. Do your best to never use anything else. Save yourself the headache of stripping that nut and causing yourself a whole lot of agony, potentially. Give it a little bit of a snug up there. I'm going to check it again. I think you can sort of see what I'm doing here. Well, check the neck relief now. It's a little bit shallow, but we're going to go with it just to see what our string action is looking like now. And we are dead on at 5/64ths on the bass E string, and we are dead on at 4/64ths on the treble E string. And when this guitar arrived, the neck angle was like this instead of like this. And I put shims in the neck, and they give you very specific, numerically accurate shims to put in this neck pocket to tilt the neck. And I mean, you can try one. If it doesn't work, try a different one. If it doesn't work, try a different one. It doesn't take much to test it. To put the neck on and take it off, it's about as much trouble as an electric guitar. after all that effort and changing string, the guitar's holding tune pretty darn well at this point. I think it's gone a little sharp from the truss rod adjustment. No fret buzz. Now, once I've got the guitar kind of settled in, what I like to do is do some crazy ass bends with this thing. And forgive the language. If your foul language bothers you, I'm sorry. That's how we talk, like pirates here at the shop. I do some bends on these. So I'm building and do that in a few different places. Actually playing the guitar. Noticing that treble E is getting a little crazy there, so we'll give it. Sounds really dumb. But let's say you got a gig in, 5 more minutes and you just got done putting strings on, man. Now I realize you're not going to be doing that necessarily on your acoustic guitar, but if you take these steps, crap out of this guitar ultimately just to check my the installation of my strings to make sure when I hand this back to the customer, he can sit down with this thing and hit a big old chord on it and it's going to be in tune. If it hangs overnight or sits in the case or gets real hot or real cold or temperature changes, it's definitely going to fall out of tune a little bit. But I want him to be able to plug this thing in and play along with it. And speaking of plug it in, I am going to plug this thing in because I have not checked the electronicals in this thing. And I know the truss rod is all done correctly, and the neck relief is right. So let's go ahead and put the truss rod cover back in this guitar. And you know, it might seem like I'm being a bit brutal when I'm changing guitar strings on an instrument like this, but I am a professional musician, and I do get paid to play guitar. And if I break a string at a gig, number one, that's foolish because I probably didn't put strings on my guitar before I played, or a new set of strings, and or I put a bad set of strings on my guitar, in which case it's not my fault. Another cool thing about Taylor guitars, and one of the beautiful things about them, is that they put the screws for the truss rod cover in places where you can get at them, whereas most guitar companies put the screw for that right underneath the G or the B string. I mean, directly underneath it. So with a Taylor, you can put these screws in and not have to move the string or loosen the string tension. So again, I believe that Taylor, you can call me biased because I own one, but they are one of the greatest guitar builders in the world. And you can disagree with me, and that's fine. I know there's so many different opinions about it, and mine aren't all right. But the way I put strings on is a correct way to do it, and it's a good way to do it. And there are many other ways to do it. Double wrapping your string through the hole in the machine head is utterly, it's really, really dumb. It's a totally useless move. And even if a guitar manufacturer tells you to do it, they've probably been building guitars longer than I'm alive, so they probably know more than me. But how many gigs have they played? And how many times have they broken a string on a live stage and needed to get back in the set? So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I need to find an instrument cable. My instrument cable that I usually use is not here right at the moment. So also, I've polished and treated the fingerboard on this guitar today. We're going to use this. We're just going to use this old cheapo. Comes with a guitar from the factory guitar cable. Let's see how the electronics in this thing work. I'm not even sure what they do at this point. I should have power on my switches. I don't. Why don't I? Why don't I have power to? Oh, because I didn't have a cable. There I do. I don't have power to this. Yes, I do. My loop pedal works. All right. So let's see what she sounds like plugged in. I have no idea what my amp's gonna sound like. Okay. Just checking out the electronic controls on this thing. Sorry if you're getting this ill from all the movement. So, you know, if I'm at a gig right now, and I just put strings on my guitar, like sitting at the bar, and I just got there, I just put strings on just like I did it. So, you know, if you're putting your strings on your instrument differently than what I've done with this Taylor, and these are super fine instruments. I mean, there's absolutely, they're, again, in my opinion, they're one of the best built guitars in the world. For a multitude of reasons. But the fact that I can put a new set of strings on, these are 11 gauge, 11 to 52 gauge Ernie Ball light strings, and throw a set of strings on it, stretch them out like I did, and I'm able to just sit down immediately and play that piece of music and wind it and bend it, and it's in tune. You can do the whole squeezing your strings together like this. You know, I can appreciate that, but it does nothing for me because I don't think that properly gets the full stretch out of the strings. The other thing is people will just pull straight up on them, and that's fine and dandy, but you've got a whole bunch of string on either side of where you pulled up on that thing, where you've created a lot of tension and even bent the string, where if you do this between your pointer finger and your thumb, you can stretch every square inch of that string. And yeah, it's hard on your fingers, but you're a guitar player. You're not a wimp. You're not decorating cookies or putting frosting on a cake, right? You're playing guitar. You got calluses on your other fingers. And mine are kind of dirty because I've been working all day. This guitar sounds fantastic. Turn the EQ just all the way up. Boy, it's bright. It definitely has some brightness to it. I'm leaving the treble at about 1 o'clock and the bass at about 3 o'clock. Machine head is turning really, really, really slowly. Everything's in. just checking the intonation real quick on the snark. It's not the most accurate intonation checker, but it does get you. If you're way off, you'll know it. So, okay. This is a Taylor 214 model. Plays very nicely. It'd be great to just be able to hand it to one of you guys that plays and hear what your thoughts are. And forgive me, I haven't been paying any attention at all to the chat. I wanted to get this guitar done for this gentleman. He actually brought it in before I went on vacation, if you want to call it vacation. Every day's vacation for me. So he's been waiting a while to get this guitar back, and I hate somebody being without their baby for too long, which is why I get guitars shipped to me from other places, because guys have to wait 8 months sometimes to get their guitar back from a guitar shop. And that's no joke. If you live in a place like Chicago or New York, LA, and you don't have, you know, a shop close by, it can take a long time. So this guitar is owned by a gentleman that lives in our immediate area, and when I say immediate area, he lives about 50 miles from our shop. So that's pretty immediate around here. We're in the middle of pretty much nowhere, but we are somewhere. Yeah, it's kind of like we live at the 13th floor, right? Let's see. That's interesting. Let me, I'm going to go back and look at some of the comments here. And then if you have anything, Preston, hello. I'll say hello. Lord Spike, hello. Virginia, hello. Again, sorry, Virginia, I missed you. It's a 214 CE, so it's a grand auditorium. with the cutaway, thus the CE on it, which mine is a 414, and the only difference between this guitar and mine's 20 years older than this one, but this one does have laminated back and sides, so you pay less for a 214 than you do for a 414, because mine has real back and sides on it, and it's older. It's an older model. I think the 214s are going for in the neighborhood of like $1,200 now. Yeah, the guitar just works though. How long do nylon strings last if the guitar is never played? My journeyman just walked in the room when I read that, and he's laughing. Oh, that's funny. That is a great question. I'll let you know. I'll let you know on that one. Yeah, Timothy, if you want to go back and watch, I put all of I wound the strings. I did a really nice shot of the headstock. So if you want to rewind and you can watch how I did that. I did it all kind of in one short moment in the video. And forgive me, I've been talking a lot, but I'm just trying to share every detail that I got. Um, let's see. Walking the dogs. All right, good. All right, and forgive me for not. Yeah, if you never play them, if you never play a guitar, give it to somebody who's going to play it. That's what I would recommend. Put it in a home where it's going to get used. I think Preston, you're talking about the stretch and squeezing them, but I don't do that. Uh, yeah, what does intonation mean? That's a great question. Preston answered that very, very accurately, and it is the center point between. And I'll get this guitar up. I'm going to unplug it. So we're going to be totally acoustic now. I'll point the camera over here so you can kind of get an idea of. Let me look at. I've got a little bit of delay here. Let me go to this. Okay, so the nut and the saddle and the midway point. This note, being the 12th fret, needs to be in exact tune with the open note played at the nut. So we have nothing fretted. And if I play this note at the 12th fret, and they're accurately, exactly in tune with one another, you have a perfectly, or as close to perfect intonation as you can get. Physics are a real fact that some people don't have a grasp on, but physics actually have a lot to do with that. And the reason that a guitar can't be perfectly intonated is because of the frequencies that the note resonates at. In order to have perfect intonation at every single fret, the frets actually have to curve. We've talked a little bit about that. Look at Steve Vai's, some of Steve Vai's gem guitars. He has a couple. If you watch some videos of him playing, you'll see some guitars that have those squiggly frets. Those instruments can technically be perfectly intonated. And the way you set the intonation, if you look at this saddle, and I don't know how well this camera is going to show it, but the treble E string is closer to the nut where it crosses the saddle than the B string. You can see there's a little curvature in this. And then as the G, the D, the A, and the E, they all are hitting the saddle at an angle. I'm not, forgive me, my cameraman's drinking again. So the saddle is actually sitting at a bit of an angle here. And then, so the saddle looks something. I'll just draw it on a piece of paper because intonation is really super important. If you have a really well-trained ear, you can certainly tell if something is not properly intonated. So I'm just going to do a real quick drawing. Let's see. So we start and go like this, this, and then this is kind of dramatic, but just to make the point, E, A, D, G, B, and E. So here's your set of guitar strings, and so your saddle will look, where the strings are making contact with the saddle, they'll look something like this. Again, this is very extreme, but this point being where the string makes contact with the saddle, and the nut is obviously a straight line, right? So the diameter of the string, and then the pitch that the string is tuned to, we have to also offset these saddles, which is why all electric guitars have, or not all, every electric guitar should have individual saddles that you can move to get the intonation correct. Because if you change string gauges or put a new neck on a guitar, anything like that, or put new saddles on it, you've got to re-intonate the instrument. So very important part. And you play a big bar chord, it's, say you're playing a B major bar chord, if you know what that means, it can sound really out of tune. But then you play an open E major chord and it'll sound perfectly in tune. That's what intonation is all about. Let's see. All right. Taylor 214. Well, yes. Okay. Oh, the parlor. Yeah. Parlor guitars are cool. I have one here. Virginia, and I'm going to try and answer the questions as best I can, as quickly as I can. I know this has kind of gone on a little bit longer than I had expected. The neck needed to be reset because Taylor necks are designed so that you can tilt the angle of the neck. Neck angle, the angle either down or up, affects your string action immensely. So this one, the neck was fairly well flat, and you always want a little bit of lean back, meaning toward the headstock, favoring the back of the guitar. And we're talking about very, very subtle amounts, but you can imagine on a 25.5-inch over a length of 25.5 inches, if you tilt the angle of that, even the slightest little bit, now your string action is adjusted considerably. So now, and when I measured it, initially when this guitar came in, the string height on the low E string between the top of the 12th fret and the bottom of that string was 8/64ths of an inch, which is 3/64ths of an inch higher than it needed to be. That's a full 32.5 of an inch if we want to get technical about it. So now it's down at 5/64ths at the bass, or the low E string, and it's at 4/64ths at the treble E string. The treble E string measured around 7/64ths. So both strings were up 3/64ths of an inch. And on a guitar, that's an eternity. If you've ever had one set up by a pro, and if you do play guitar, and I'm answering Virginia's question about why did the neck reset, had nothing to do with the neck having any defects. It was just simply the angle of it was wrong. And Taylor sends me shims that I can choose what shim to use to tilt that neck angle a little bit. Very, very simple process, but a little bit of guesswork with it. This one turned out, I got lucky because the shims that I chose to use, I used a +6 and a +10 neck angles to tweak it. It had a -2 in it and a +4. There's two different shims that go into it. So Don't even ask me about the numbering system on that. I can look at them and make a kind of an educated guess as to what shim to use, and it is absolutely perfect right now. And that's what the guy brought it to me for. Totally what he brought it to me for. Um, string puller tool. There's something. Yeah, and if you want to re-intonate an acoustic guitar, that can be a handful. You're gonna end up, and you are limited to the amount of intonation you can get on a string. It could be sharply intonated, and you don't have enough saddle to move the string further away from the nut. It's really a bummer. But Taylor has, this is the original saddle that came in this guitar. I think the only change in this guitar is that the string gauge has changed from probably stock 12 gauge strings to 11 gauge strings. The owner wanted a lighter set of strings than what he had on it. So we went with 11s. Very, very subtle change, and still the intonation is nearly as perfect as I can get it. He didn't ask for he didn't ask for an intonation setup, and that can take a bit of time. Let's see. I know that drawing and frame it. Yeah, that's not a bad drawing. Okay, I know I'm going back in time here. Acoustic. There's yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think I covered my main point, and that is don't double wrap your strings through the machine head hole. You've just wasted time and caused. If you do that and you take it to a guitar tech, I hope he says something to you, because I will certainly point that out. The other thing that this guitar had going on is that the strings were wound in an upward direction instead of a downward direction. It's always, never say never or always. I want to be careful about what I say. I cannot think of a moment where you would want to wrap a string in an upward direction. I'm trying to think of an instance. The only thing I could say, if you want this, you know, where the hole and the windings are going above the hole instead of below the hole, is if you want that string to have a serious buzz at the nut. If you like that sound, go for it. Wrap the string upside down. That would do it in most cases. But go downhill with your string windings and make them tidy. And I'll give you, just put you over here next to these strings that I just put on this guitar, and I'm going to try and get you as close as I can and have some focus, but you can see that nothing's overlapping. The string is cut off so close to that peg that I can't, I mean, I'm touching it with my finger, and it's right. There's no reason to cut that and bend it up or anything. Cut it off right next to the hole as close as you can, and that string is never going to come out of there. And I've been doing that like this for as long as I've been playing guitar, and that's no joke. And I'd tell you how long I've been playing a guitar, but I'd have to kill you. Yeah, and even this low E string. So you can see the way the strings are wound on there. They're very tidy and very neat. I do this all the time, so this is easy stuff for me. And also, prior to doing the string change, I tightened the nuts. Every time you change strings on your acoustic guitar, get a little crescent wrench and just make sure that these nuts are tight. You don't need to reef them down. And then another thing you can do is check these screws and make sure they're tight. You don't want to go too far with them. Just get them snug and call it a day. And then also the screws on the back of the machine heads, if it has screws, which most machine heads do, tighten those, make sure those screws are snug. Not that any of that has anything to do with tuning stability, but it just keeps stuff operating right. Little things you can do on your own. Yeah. Yeah, almost any time these screws, the nuts that it's really, Lord, it's not let's see, what do I want to call you? Spike. Uh, it it really isn't. It doesn't have a bearing on how well the guitar stays in tune. However, there's multiple reasons why you should do this. Number one, it kind of holds the machine head in there nice and sturdy. But the other thing is, if it's loose, you're playing your guitar and you're going, God, I got fret buzz all over this thing. You'd be shocked at how many guitar fret buzzes I've fixed. Hand it back to the guy, hey, your fret buzz is solved because one of those nuts was loose. That's what was rattling. It wasn't fret buzz at all. So, and if you've experienced it, you'll know. Usually, I don't know, there's a lot of cases where, I get complaints about fret buzz on a guitar, and it's just because a screw or something else is rattling. But when they hit that note on their guitar, it's a sympathetic note, and that frequency vibrates that little piece of metal or whatever. And it's shocking. I mean, the stuff you can find. But that's a very important reason to tighten those up. Yeah, you're welcome, Falco. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Yeah. Yep, that's the whole point. So, I'm going to head out. You guys have a wonderful day. I got to get this guitar home to its wonderful owner. And I have an Ibanez on the bench next, and we're fixing that one. So, new nut on an Ibanez locking nut guitar. How am I going to do that? Yep. Peace out. Oh.